Well, thanks everyone for joining me today. I'm excited to have you all here. Welcome. Today we're going to be diving into fasting. As I let a few more people in here, we'll get started. First, for those who don't know me already, my name's Dr. Ryan Wagner. I'm a pharmacist, I'm a functional medicine practitioner, a certified Wild Fit coach, certified Mind Valley, Hodl Body coach, a 10X coach, and can't wait to dive in and share some more information with you today about fasting. So let's dive right in. As you can imagine, fasting is one of the oldest dietary interventions in the world, right? And modern science confirms that we have a profound benefit and influence to our health going through and experiencing times of fasting. I'll also add in, I do have the chat open. If there's things that you need, I'll see if I can keep an eye on that. Intermittent fasting, it's a powerful approach that facilitates weight loss. It helps to reduce the risk of chronic diseases, things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, as well as cancer. Research overwhelmingly supports the notion that ditching the 3 square meals a day approach in favor of intermittent fasting can do wonders for your health and your body, and simply isn't designed to be constantly fed. You know, you think about a hunter-gatherer, and there would be times when you did not have food, that nature would have forced you into a fasted state. And really, there are just two two states that our body can be in. It's either fed or fasting. And intermittent fasting typically refers to not eating for at least 14 consecutive hours. However, not eating for 16 or 18 hours is likely closer to being metabolically ideal. You know, this means, you're only eating, food for a 6 to 8 hour window. So the cycling of feasting and feeding and famine or fasting, mimics, the eating habit of our ancestors and restores your body to more of a natural state that allows a whole host of biochemical benefits to occur. In recent years, it's becoming increasingly clear that your body cannot run optimally when there's a continuous supply of calories coming in. For starters, when you eat throughout the day, you never skip a meal. Your body adapts to burning sugar as its primary fuel, which downregulates enzymes that utilize and burn stored fat. As a result, you start becoming progressively more insulin resistant and start gaining weight. And most efforts to lose weight even become ineffective. So one common myth is that fasting will lead to loss of muscle mass. During fasting, you start by burning off all of the glycogen that's in your liver and in your muscles, which is the stored sugar, which is all sugar. And there's a point there where some of the excess amino acids in your body need to get burnt as well. So if you have excess protein, that protein or those amino acids are going to get converted into sugar. That's why this is where people say where you're burning muscle is not actually what happens. The body never upregulates its protein catabolism and breaking down of it never is burning muscle. There's normal turnover that is always going on. It's like everything in our body. We're constantly building up bone and degrading bone. We're constantly building up muscle and degrading muscle. So there's just normal turnover processes that are happening. And there is a certain amount of protein that you need for just regular turnover and to build new muscle as the protein and the muscle is breaking down. And when you start fasting, that starts to go down. It starts to go down, and then fat oxidation goes up. In essence, what you've done is you switched over from burning sugar into burning fat. And that's usually where people feel that difference in what's happening in their body. The starvation mode myth. So another common fear is that fasting equals starvation, which is just not true. First of all, starvation is a forced situation that you have no control over, whereas fasting is optional. You have complete control. Many also believe they cannot or should not fast because it will send their body into complete starvation mode. A situation where the body starts holding on to fat rather than burning it or burning it off. So what they're talking about is where the body's metabolism starts to slow down so significantly that instead of burning, say, the usual 2,000 calories a day as your basal metabolic rate, your body might only burn 1,000 calories a day because it starts to downregulate so significantly. In that case, even if you're eating only 1,500 calories, for example, you're going to gain weight back. That's actually what happens when you reduce your calorie consumption. We know that as you cut calorie intake, your calorie expenditure goes down as well. And starvation mode actually is guaranteed if you just try to cut your calories all the time. But what's interesting is that fasting doesn't do that. What happens during fast is that after 4 days of fasting, the basal metabolic rate actually has a 10% higher and an increase from where you started. I see there's a comment in here that's a big fear for me. A lot of doctors have told me that if you don't eat all of your meals a day, you'll go into starvation mode and you can actually gain weight. That calorie restriction is different than a complete fast, and allowing your digestive system to take a break and basically take all that energy that you were using for fuel or to digest your food to actually heal and replenish your body. So just another myth around the starvation mode. Now, there are some contraindications for fasting. While 80% of the population would likely benefit from water fasting, there are also several absolute contraindications. If any one of the following apply to you, you probably should not extend types of fasting. So if you're already underweight, and this is defined as a body mass index of 18.5 or less, we should not be fasting. We should actually be doing things to induce an anabolic state, to send some stress to our body, to build our muscles and to build things back up. If you're malnourished, and there's many people out there that are overfed and undernourished. So it's completely different from a nutrient perspective. We have to have all the nutrients to carry out different processes in our body. So if we're going to do fasting, we want to be fully nourished. So if you're malnourished and you're not eating healthy or more nutritious foods, probably not a good idea to fast. And children, they probably should not fast for longer than 24 hours, as they need even more nutrients, to continue to grow and have those cells replicate. If your child needs to lose weight, a far safer and more appropriate approach is to cut out the refined sugars and to cut out the grains and add in more nutrient-dense fruits and vegetables and things that are full of fiber. Fasting is risky for children as it cuts out all the nutrients, and it's those nutrients that they need to continue to grow, including those those children that need a steady supply of those nutrients. Another contraindication would be if you're pregnant or a breastfeeding woman. The mother needs a steady supply of nutrients. They're sharing those nutrients with another, right? And in order to ensure that the baby's health, the growth and development of the baby, and that the mother, fasting during pregnancy or while breastfeeding can just be an increased risk for the mother or the child. So it would be contraindicated there. Now we get into some of the variations of fasting. There are many ways to do an extended fast. I mean, following are some, of the most common ones. We've talked briefly about water fasting, and this is exactly what it sounds like. You don't eat, you only drink water for several days in a row, typically no less than 24 hours. We have to stay hydrated. We can only go 3 days without water, and we don't even want to get dehydrated. We want to stay hydrated during the entire time, and making sure that our water has got plenty of minerals dissolved into it is also important. So you don't want like reverse osmosis water. You want water that is spring water or mineral water that has those minerals dissolved into it. Then we have other beverages, so water plus non-caloric beverages, a slight variation to just the plain water fast, but this is to include other non-caloric beverages such as herbal teas. So this of course means there's no milk, there's no sugar, there's no other sweeteners, there's no artificial non-caloric sweeteners. It's just herbal teas for additional beverages. Then you get into maybe a bone broth variation or you're having other broths. And this variation technically is no longer a fast because it's allowing you the use of the bone broth. And in broth, you have the addition of healthy fats. And bone broth also contains a lot of protein. So it's not truly a true fast, but different variations. And there are some other versions of fasting. I'm not going to go into all the details. Someone would say that there's a fat fast where you're adding in healthy fats to actually help in fat metabolism. So it's like taking a non-caloric beverage like coffee and adding in MCT oil, medium chain triglycerides to do, a keto coffee type of version. Not technically a fast because now we're adding in additional fats. All righty, fasting and then meal timing. Your body is pretty marvelous, right? It's this marvel of ingenuity, and the more that you can work with it rather than against it, the healthier you're going to be. And of course, I always encourage everyone to continue to grow their awareness and that relationship with their body and listening to their body. But just consider the following for intermittent fasting. It involves, scheduling your meals in such a way that you get a period of fasting each day. Typically you eat all of your meals within a 6-7 hour window. And many people, when they start intermittent fasting, they decide to skip breakfast. That's what I've done. It's just easier for me in the morning to continue with my lemon water or some other, beverage like an herbal tea. I had lemon balm tea earlier today, and just without having any food in your stomach can continue to stay in that fasted state. However, in studying the mitochondrial function, it can be concluded that it's not a good idea to eat late at night. So it depends how late you're pushing your food into your eating window, because that's when your body is ready for rest and regeneration and repair. And ideally, a good bedtime is at around 10 p.m. The sun has gone down, and from a food perspective, we would like to, cut off our food 3 hours before bedtime. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your eating window. Eating in the evening creates a surplus of ATP, the adenosine triphosphate, what we use for energy. And this is simply going to generate an excess amount of damaging reactive oxygen species. These free radicals, these reaction oxygen species are going to be flying around, and we're going to need more antioxidants in order to deal with them because we're not burning through the ATP and using up that energy that we created that late in the day. So just something else to watch out for. So some other considerations for intermittent fasting. While intermittent fasting is likely to be beneficial for most people, there are some points you want to consider here. Intermittent fasting does not have to be a form of calorie restriction. It's a practice that should make you feel good. If your fasting strategy is making you feel weak, lethargic, you need to reevaluate your approach. And this can also lead to some of the other, not necessarily complete contraindications, but some reasons why you may not want to ease into intermittent fasting. It has to do with your adrenal health and how well your adrenals are producing cortisol and adrenaline and things to help maintain your blood sugar. If you've been in a constantly overstressed environment where you're always producing out abundant amount of cortisol or stimulating your adrenal glands by having stimulants like caffeine, your adrenal glands just get tired and they're not able to maintain your blood sugar like they should. And you can feel situations while fasting where your blood sugar is going too low and your reserve of cortisol is just not there. So something to reevaluate on your approach as you have your awareness and how you feel heading into a fast. Another reason why you need to be fully nourished before you do any type of fasting. Then there's also sugar cravings. Sugar cravings are temporary. Your hunger and craving for sugar will slow and dissipate as your body starts to burn fat as the primary fuel. Once your body has successfully shifted into fat burning mode, it's going to be easier for you to fast for as long as 18 hours and still feel satiated. So sugar burns fast and hot. And once it's burned through and you able to flip the switch and get it burned through all the reserve glycogen stores and things in your body, you'll flip over to fat burning mode. It's not advisable to practice intermittent fasting if your daily diet is filled with processed foods. We talked briefly about it earlier, the nutrients are not there. People can be overfed and undernourished. While intermittent fasting may sound like a panacea against ill health and excess weight, it alone may not provide you with all of the benefits. The quality of your diet plays an important role in looking for more than just mere weight loss. You have to send the right signals to your body that everything is okay and that there is no short supply of nutrients. That's where the true starvation comes in, where your body thinks that there's not enough nutrients and wants to hold on to everything. So you want to be fully nourished, and it won't send that signal of starvation or lack to your body. And it's critical to avoid the refined carbs, the sugar, the fructose, the grains, all those things that are refined, and focus your diet on vegetables and starchy vegetables from a carbohydrate standpoint, healthy proteins in moderate amounts, healthy fats like eggs and avocado, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, even raw nuts and seeds. So how to ease into this from a multi-day fasting approach? While the idea of fasting for several days may seem daunting, there are ways to ease into it that will minimize any of the discomfort. One way is to graduate into a 4-day fast is to increase your intermittent fasting daily, fasting from 16 hours and keep building that to 21 hours. And then you can even go into 24 hours and alternate day fasting. And, if you're at 21 hours, you're only leaving a 3-hour window in which you still eat all of the food for the day. Get in all of your energy needs and nutrients that you need. And after maybe a couple months of doing that, you can try to do a 4-day fast where your only sustenance is going to be water and the minerals, or even a mineral replacement, during that fast. You don't necessarily need to do intermittent fasting, for like 18 months before trying to do a water-only fast. But doing it for a few months will definitely help to shift your body to radically decrease the negative side effects. And really, when it comes to fat metabolism, it's how our mitochondria, the energy factories in our cells, are managing our energy balance, right? If we've been having a bunch of carbohydrates and glucose and using that for fuel, we've downregulated or reduced the amount of mitochondria in our cells that are using fat for fuel. And really, another benefit to fasting is helping to shift that balance. We want to have an even balance. We want to be able to use both carbohydrates and fats for fuel, be able to flip back and forth between the two. And our ultimate goal is to have metabolic efficiency. So if you want to try a multi-day fast, consider extending your intermittent fasting first, and then work on your way up to 24 hours. To 48 hours, to 72 hours, and then even longer if it's deemed necessary. And remember, if you are in complete control and can break your fast at any time that you want, it's your choice, because you have that food around you to flip to a fed state at any point. A powerful biohack for our health and longevity. Yes, fasting is. I would encourage you to increase your daily intermittent fasting towards that 18 to 21 hour range, which would enable you to transition into more extended fasts without any significant struggle. If you are on medication, or if you've got a chronic health condition, of course, you want to work with your doctor to make sure that you don't complicate any of your situation or any of your disease states. For example, you may need to make sure that you're taking a high quality multi-mineral supplement and making sure that you're getting the minerals in that you need. Majority of Americans are deficient in magnesium and zinc, because even eating all those wonderful fruits and vegetables, those plants have to get the mineral content from the soil that they're growing in. And our farming techniques today are not, rotating crops accordingly, or allowing, the soil to be replenished to improve that mineral, quality of the soil. So it may be necessary to supplement some of those additional trace minerals into your water and into just the supplementing them throughout the fast. So before you jump into days long water only fasting, start with intermittent fasting. I believe it'll significantly ease the process and raise your chances of success. All right. The whole benefit of fasting is the biological repair and rejuvenation. Research has confirmed that many biological repair and rejuvenation processes take place when there is an absence of food. And this is another reason why the all-day grazing can actually trigger episodes of more disease. Your body never has the time to clean out the garbage, to regenerate, to rejuvenate, to repair. So when you go without food for a period of time, the resulting metabolic changes stimulate a natural cleansing process known as autophagy or mitophagy. It's also apoptosis. It's programmed cell death. In this case, mitophagy is a case of mitochondrial autophagy, in which your body detoxifies and rids itself of damaged cells. So if there's sick, diseased, damaged cells in the body, they get the signal just to die off and to cleanse. And when you're in this constant feast mode of being fed, your body forgoes any of these many benefits. And that does not mean that you don't need to or should, starve yourself for an extended period of time, though. This autophagy process usually starts around day 3 of a fast. So simply cycling between periods of eating and fasting on a daily basis or a weekly schedule has even shown to provide some of the same benefits as completely, not eating for several days. We've been talking about the nutrients, and what you eat still matters. While some intermittent fasting programs claim that you can binge on whatever you want and, non-fasting days, you just go for it. I strongly recommend that you pay attention to the quality of the food regardless of the program that you choose. Since you're eating less, you want to make sure that you're getting high quality nutrients from your food, as much nutrient dense food as possible. And healthy fats are especially important. If there's one thing I recommend to anybody that's changing their diet, it's the quality of fats that they put into their body. Because every cell has a lipid layer, the cell membrane, that communicates with the outside world. And you want that cell membrane to be made of the best fats possible. So healthy fats are especially important, as intermittent fasting pushes your body to switch over to fat burning mode. If you feel tired or sluggish, it may be a sign that you need to increase the amount of healthy fat in your diet. That maybe you're not converting over those fat molecules and breaking down the triglycerides into individual fatty acids fast enough. Cutting net carbs, the total carbs minus the fiber. So there's a difference there in net carbs and total carbs. Net carbs is just total carbs minus the fiber, is equally important. Fructose, it can also be, particularly troublesome, as it activates a key enzyme, which is fructokinase, which in turn activates another enzyme that causes your cells to accumulate fat and resist letting any of it go. So if you're overweight, insulin resistant, diabetic, reducing your sugar consumption is really the key. And the best thing you can do during a fast is not have a whole lot of fructose in fruit. It will make the fat burning mode a lot easier. As a general rule, kind of a healthy diet is, whether you're fasting or not, regardless of the fasting schedule that you're on, it's important to eat a diet that's high in healthy fats. And this means many will benefit from anywhere from 50 to 85% of their daily calories in the form of healthy fat, coming from avocados and pasture-raised egg yolks, extra virgin organic coconut oil, raw nuts and like macadamia nuts, pecans, pine nuts, walnuts, all of those high quality fats. You also want a moderate amount of protein. We don't need to do it, and we want high quality protein. Obviously, organically raised, grass-fed, pastured animals. Most likely not need more than 40 to 80 grams of protein a day, depending on your lean body mass. It's recommended to limit your protein to a half a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. And you don't need more than that unless you're strategically trying to add on and build muscle mass. And then, of course, there's an unrestricted amount of fresh vegetables, or organic, of course, and paying attention to how those are raised as well. So how long should you fast? And besides when and what you eat, another common question usually relates to duration. Just how long must you continue intermittent fasting? While some embrace it as a lifestyle, it tends to be particularly true of those who restrict their daily eating to a specific window of time. It's not something that you have to do for the rest of your life. Peak fasting is done every day, really. You get to a point where you're being able to flip back and forth while you sleep at night. There is a period of fasting. But peak fasting is done every day rather than just a few days a week. However, you can certainly cycle in and off days due to your schedule, to other social commitments, the calendar. The key is to be flexible, right? And if circumstances allow, you can seek to do it every day. Just keep the process simple, right? Easy to remember. So some more tips for making it through the transition period. The toughest part of intermittent fasting plan is getting through the initial transition, which can take anywhere from 7 to 10 days, maybe even longer for some people, depending on how insulin resistant they are. I've had some clients I've worked with that have gone for weeks because their insulin levels were so high, and other factors. Can be your weight, your blood pressure, or your cholesterol levels, and if you're not consistent with the fasting. About 10% of people can report headaches as a side effect when they first start fasting, but the biggest complaint is hunger. It may be helpful to remember that part of why you're craving food is because your body has not yet made the switch from burning sugar to burning fat as the primary source of fuel. As long as you're running on sugar, which is that fast burning fuel that burns fast and hot, frequent hunger pangs will be the norm. Fat is far more satisfying. It's got a slow burn, and it's much slow burning fuel to maintain your hungers and really allow those hungers and cravings to dissipate. Remember, a diet high in carbohydrates severely inhibits your body's ability to produce lipase and to use fats as an energy source. Lipase is inhibited because of high insulin levels, and your insulin rises in response to eating foods that are high in carbohydrates. So it's important to replace carbs with healthy fat in order to successfully make that metabolic switchover and become a more efficient fat burner. Another factor that can trip you up during this transition period is psychological. If you're used to grazing throughout the day, it may take some time to break that habit. One trick is to drink more water, have it available within arm's reach, and have that visual cue. There's many times that people mistake thirst for hunger. So start with the glass of water and see how that changes your hunger pangs. Some more benefits to intermittent fasting. There's many confirmed health benefits. When you switch over to a fasted or fat burning mode, you're releasing ketones into your bloodstream, which they help preserve brain function and protect against epileptic seizures, cognitive impairment, and any really neurodegenerative disease. Alzheimer's can even fall into that category. I just had an individual reach out to me just yesterday, was asking about what to do for his epilepsy and how to help improve his seizures. So another great benefit of doing fasting, or at least getting into that fat burning mode and being able to use fat for fuel more efficiently. Another one is boosting the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This actually stimulates the creation of new brain cells. It triggers the brain chemicals that protect the brain against changes that were associated with Alzheimer's, as well as Parkinson's disease. We can get into cancer as well, but let me touch on increasing growth hormone by as much as 1,300%. It's been 1,300% in women and 2,000% in men. Therefore, it actually promoting muscle development and vitality. It's been helpful in lowering insulin levels. We talked about insulin resistance and improving your insulin sensitivity. Studies have shown intermittent fasting can both prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes, which is rooted in insulin resistance. Increasing levels of different neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, which helps your body to break down fat and to use it as fuel, obviously benefits your metabolism, and being able to create that metabolic efficiency of using both sugar and fat for fuel. We talked about uprating autophagy and also mitophagy, where we were breaking down the mitochondria that may be damaged or diseased. But this helps protect against most diseases, including cancer and any other neurodegenerative disease. There's many cancers that thrive on sugar. They love that. Remember, a cancerous cell is dividing fast and quickly, and it wants that energy that is, fast burning, so it can replicate faster. This is, the whole idea of the ketogenic diet was created by oncologists that were treating brain cancer. Brain cancer is one of those that is very sugar dependent, and we're able to basically have patients go into remission by following a ketogenic diet. Fasting also lowers oxidative stress. Those reactive oxygen species that we were talking about that's causing oxidative damage. So in turn, fasting can help with hypertension, high blood pressure, and other disease states that are causing just inflammation and damage to our arteries in our blood vessels. It also decreases inflammation. Inflammation all throughout the body, including our joints and things like arthritis. Improving circulating glucose and lipid levels actually helps to make sure that they're moving around. We talked about reducing blood pressure, reducing some of the cardiovascular benefits, actually reproducing, not reducing, reproducing some of the cardiovascular benefits associated with exercise. So it's like doing cardio workout, protecting against cardiovascular disease, reducing, low density lipoproteins, the LDL, the bad form of cholesterol, as well as your total cholesterol, improving immune function, and of course, eliminating those sugar cravings that we've been talking about and burning fat instead of sugar. So a little more on cancer. besides normalizing your weight, intermittent fasting is one of the ways by which you can significantly boost mitochondrial health and energy efficiency, which is important for chronic disease prevention. It thereby cuts your risk of health problems for heart disease and cancer. Intermittent fasting can also have very beneficial impact on brain function. We talked about the brain cancer piece, but may even hold help and aid with preventing Alzheimer's disease. We talked about insulin. Fasting improves insulin sensitivity. Like other studies, before it, recent research finds that fasting may improve insulin sensitivity. It's going to reverse diabetes, support your weight management efforts when combined with exercise. And that's the other piece. We need to make sure we have movement from an exercise standpoint. The research presented in Digestive Disease Week 2019 was based on fasting prayer practices that Muslims did during Ramadan. And the pilot study enlisted 14 healthy individuals who routinely fasted for 15 hours a day from dusk to dawn over 30 days. And the researchers collected blood samples before the individuals began their religious fast and at the end of the 4th week of fasting. An additional blood panel was drawn 1 week post-fasting, and the research work was primarily supported by the National Institute of Health Public Health Servants Grant. It was a grant, so sponsored appropriately. Fasting for 30 days raised the levels of tropomyosin, TPM, proteins that in turn improved insulin resistance and reduced the adverse effects of the diet. It was rich in sugar. Higher levels of TPM, 1, 3, and 4 were found in blood samples of the participants. And TPM is a key factor for maintaining the health of cells, important also for insulin resistance. So just some evidence there on that study on what's happening with insulin sensitivities and TPM. Skipping breakfast before a workout may actually help support weight management. There was another study evaluating the effectiveness of omitting a meal before an early workout. Was published in the Journal of Nutrition. And the researchers wanted to see if skipping breakfast before the workout would affect the relationship to food for the remainder of the day. While exercise plays an important role in weight management and overall health, past studies had demonstrated that people who begin a new exercise program often compensate for the energy that they burned during the exercise by eating more later in the day, or by actually moving less after their workout. And the researchers enrolled, healthy, physically active young men who they had completed 3 stages in a randomized order, separated by over 1 week. And during the 1 stage, the participants ate breakfast with oats and milk, followed by rest. And in another, they had the same breakfast and then exercised for 60 minutes. So during another stage, the participants fasted overnight and then exercised in the morning before eating. And the following 24 hours of caloric intake was monitored and calculated. And the researchers found that those who fasted and then exercised had a negative 400 calorie intake during the day compared to those who ate and rested, or who ate breakfast before exercising. So there is a difference in how it affects your food and what you eat the rest of the day. Kind of sets the tone for that day. Well, I'm sure you guys have some questions, and I see GoPo's in here. If I'm achieving my goal with 16.8, what will the benefits of, I gotta scroll down. What will the benefits of, now I lost it. Where did it go? benefits of a 24-hour fast once a week. Can it be measured? So let's take, for instance, if weight loss is your goal, then it's probably beneficial to move to the 24-hour fast, because we're looking at total energy balance over the entire week. And if you're cutting out an entire day's calories, maybe you're making it up the next day, but if you didn't, you would have an overall caloric deficit to help from a weight loss perspective. But you mentioned you're already achieving your goals and you're probably at your ideal body weight. The benefits between 24-hour fast and intermittent fasting, there's not a huge difference. The only thing I would recommend is maybe you get into a longer period of fast ever so often, just to ensure that you reach that state of autophagy, that programmed cell death, where you are actually killing off those sick and diseased cells. Yes, I mentioned there's some signs of the 16-8 already doing that, but doing an extended period of fast would make sure that that's happening. And there's another one in here. If you are fasting, for instance, 18 or 22 hours, do you still take the same amount of food during the rest of the time? In this case, the 6 or 2 hours, as you would during the 10 or 12-hour day or normal day, where there is no fasting. Yes. When it comes to intermittent fasting, you still want to get in all of your nutrients, what you would, and that's why it's so important to have nutrient-dense foods, to stick to those, high quality fats, moderate amount of quality proteins, and an abundant amount of vegetables, to get all of those nutrients in. We don't want any nutritional gaps that would slow down any of our bodily functions. We want to be fully nourished if we do extended periods of fasting as well. And Gardner's asking, you talked about vitamin supplements. What brands have the best bioavailability? Great question. So if you want to check out Pharmacy Counter's website, I do have a link at the bottom of any of my landing pages for FullScript. FullScript is a wholesaler for pharmaceutical grade supplements. I use them in my functional medicine practice, higher quality supplements that are usually plant derived or derived in a way that is bioavailable. And some of the manufacturers that are on there are Designs for Health and Pure Encapsulations and Thorne, and just good quality manufacturers. I usually recommend a lot of Pure Encapsulation products because I don't want I just want that particular supplement. I don't want all fillers and anti-caking agents and different things in the capsule. I just want that particular supplement. So you can find Pure Encapsulations on FullScript as well. The reason I recommend that you go there is because I've contracted with the wholesaler to get a discount, and I can pass that discount on to you. I've never seen Pure Encapsulations or Designs for Health or any of those quality manufacturers on sale. You can look at Amazon and other places, but you can get a discount if you go through that link on my website. Vera's asking if I do a morning mud tea with MCT, which is about 80 calories around 8 a.m., but I don't eat until noon or 7 p.m. Does the tea count as part of the fast, or it is slightly caloric? So it's not technically a true fast because you're adding in additional fat there. Your body is going to start to utilize that fat that you consumed for fuel instead of the fat on your body. It's still going to keep you in fat burning mode. So you are going to have the benefits of being in that ketogenic state and using fat for fuel. But if weight loss is one of your goals, that would slow down some of your your weight loss. But eventually, I would also want you to get to a point where you didn't have to have that extra. To make sure that you're using fat efficiently, you should be able to maintain your energy balance by just having water. So something to play around with there, Vera. And you also go on and say, so if I don't eat right before your workout, does this impact your muscle gains? Muscle gains. So there's benefits, like we discussed, to reducing your overall, it depends on your goals and intentions that you're trying to achieve. If it is, weight loss is still part of it, having a fasted workout is going to set you up for an easier day to eat less calories throughout the day and not overeat. Kind of sets the tone for your body to be more efficient at using the fuel. Muscle gains, if we want to be in a state where we're actually gaining muscle, we almost want to be in an anabolic state where we do have that excess energy to stimulate more protein synthesis and be able to build more muscle. Now, that also comes because of an adaptive response. We have to be stimulating our muscles in order to cause them to grow. And this is where strength training comes in, to make sure that it doesn't have to be a lot, but we do need to have some kind of stimulus. And that's actually what I'm going to be talking about with you here in just a moment, with a couple different programs that I have. And Body Optimized is one that can stimulate and have that adaptive response for you to grow muscle. If muscle mass is a concern and you want to have better metabolic control of the carbohydrates that you have, muscle mass is important. What's the best way to calculate how many calories, macronutrients you should have? That's another one that we get into in Body Optimized, and it's different for everyone. Ideally, you would want to find out exactly what your lean body mass is. How much muscle mass, how much energy expenditure do you need to maintain that muscle mass, and what your activity levels are throughout the day. You've got your total energy intake through your food. You've got total daily energy expenditure with your basal metabolic rate, your exercise induced energy, as well as the thermogenetic effect of the food. Remember, it takes energy to digest food. So it depends on what food you're eating and how much it takes to digest that. And going through and making those calculations, we also want to have the right balance of macronutrients. There are some online calculators, but it's really best to individualize it for each person and what their goals are. Because sometimes you want weight loss, sometimes you want muscle gain, sometimes you want to maintain. So there's even more that goes into it there. Vera, does that answer all of your questions? Anyone else have any questions? If you want to come off mute, you can.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if I don't eat from 8 at night till like 9 in the morning, is that good intermittent fast?
That would technically not be considered intermittent fasting, because you're not quite, you're at about 13 hours of fasting. We need it to be at least 14, and ideally 16 to 21 hours of fasting.
So after dinner, I would start?
Yes, it would be even better if your dinner was a little earlier in the day, and then I assume that 8 o'clock that you were mentioning was an evening snack?
No, I eat around 5, and then I try to eat a snack around 7.
Yeah.
And then I'm done.
If you can do without that snack at 7, great.
Nuts.
Or if you...
I'll I eat is like nuts, mixed trail nuts, which have all the good fats, and that's it. And then I'm done for the day.
Well, that's a great snack. But if you want to extend your window, you can go either direction. You can leave off that snack in the evening, or you can actually push your breakfast back a couple hours in the morning before you start feeding in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I see, Nisha, you have your hand up.
I do. Thank you. I'm going through the 90-day challenge of Wow Fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to know how soon at the end of my 90 days should I consider doing a intermittent fasting program for weight loss, basically, and for health, for overall health and weight loss.
And I know, Eric, during the 90-day challenge doesn't recommend doing other programs at the same time, but intermittent fasting is actually one of those things that you can start to incorporate into, the challenge even. We'll talk about it more as we get a little bit further into the challenge, but to answer your question, you may want to, you could start immediately after the 90-day challenge.
Or even incorporating it during it.
And we can talk about incorporating it in as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. What other questions you guys have? Well, you may have some more questions that come up, and I want you guys to email me if anything comes up. You can email ryan.wagner@farmacycounter.com. But before we go, Vera was asking some questions, and I mentioned Body Optimized. I'd like to invite you guys to my next workshop. It's coming up on February 26th. It's going to be at noon Eastern Time. It's called Body Optimized, and I'm going to put into the chat the link here to register. So let me get that posted for you guys. And this workshop is going to kick off a new program that I have for Body Optimized. But during the workshop, we're going to be discussing conscious body transformation from a holistic approach. By the end of the workshop, you'll have established your baseline, analyzed the 7 different types of needs that your body has, and tapped into your inner wisdom for a plan on how to accomplish that. So there will be some things that you walk away with at the end of that workshop. Before the workshop, I'm going to send out a packet of information for you to bring to class. Let me share with you guys the packet. So I'm going to send this out to anybody that registers for the workshop. There's several different worksheets here. We're going to go through them during the workshop. So it is a workshop and not a webinar, meaning we're actually going to do some work. That's why you're going to walk away with something that in hand that you can actually use. So go ahead and register for that right now. And another thing, if you haven't seen it yet, I shared with you my email. I can put that in the chat as well. I'll put ryan.wagner@farmacycounter.com.
Everybody, are you going to send that link to everybody? Like to the email of like everybody?
Email out that link to register? Yeah, I should be able to do that. I think I have your emails captured there I could send that out. I also have an intermittent fasting guide for beginners. It's quite a few pages. It's a PDF document. If you haven't seen it or received it yet, send me an email. I will gladly get that over to you. And in there, not part of that packet, but there's also an intermittent fasting plan, which it's a 16/8 plan, but it goes through how to start a 16/8 intermittent fasting program. Also, it has intermittent fasting for a 24-hour plan. So you've got charts and tables in there to help you with your feeding windows. Shoot me an email and I'll be able to send that over to you as well. Well, I thank all of you for joining me today. Hopefully you got some great information on the benefits of fasting. Is there any other questions before we go?
Thank you very much. Really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, great to see all of you. Thanks for coming today. I imagine some of you are off to the Super Bowl parties and getting ready for your celebration. I see the thumbs up. So,
And good food.
and good food.
No
No
sugar.
fasting going
Well,
on here in the next few hours.
I already had my Cincinnati chili.
There you
That's
go.
great. Well, thanks everyone. Enjoy your
Thank you.
evening. I will see you again on February 26th for our Body Optimized workshop.
Thank
Have a
you.
great one.
All right.
Happy Valentine's Day as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you. You
yes.
too.
Ryan, are you still doing the Tuesday and Thursday night sessions?
Tuesday and Thursday for what program?